Okay, we're going to finish up chapter 3. This is video number 5 of The Manipulated Mind. Denise Lynn is the author. Dr. Bernard Diamond, professor of law and psychiatry at the University of California in Los Angeles and an expert hypnotist, hypnotized Sirhan Bishara Sirhan after the killing of Robert Kennedy. In one session, he asked Sirhan to climb the walls of his cell, and Sirhan obediently scrabbled to try to get up the wall. Asked afterwards why he had done such a thing, Sirhan said promptly that it was just a way to get exercise. Even when Diamond played the tape back to him to show that Sirhan had performed because he was instructed to under hypnosis, the latter denied that it was the reason for his action. And that was from Operation Mind Control. The self-prophecy quality of assumptions. Labels have a limiting function, both in the sense of drawing useful boundaries around categories to be defined and in creating boundaries where perhaps none naturally would have existed. If a teacher is told that a child is a slow learner, he or she then treats the child as a slow learner and the child is likely to become one, even if he was actually misjudged or incorrectly assessed in the first place. Labels limit expectations. The teacher, by assuming that a child is a slow learner, leads the child to absorb the given image of himself and also assume the image is a true one. Alarming studies from educational psychology have found that where teachers were told that half a group of children had a high IQ and half had a lower one, their own assessments of those children's performances tallied with the expectations they had gleaned from the test results, even though in fact the teachers had been given false results. Unfortunately, it is only when such experiments are carried out that the invalidity of assumptions based on such expectations come to light. In ordinary life situations, of course, the correctness of a label, such as a slow learner, antisocial, psychopath, seems to be borne out and confirmed by the fact that the individual so labeled proceeds to behave in the manner that others expect of him. Diane McGinnis, a psychologist at Stanford University, believes that the fact that so high a proportion of children designated dyslexic are boys, not girls, 80%, is related to inaccurate assumptions about the desired nature of primary education. A study of 4-year-olds revealed that when left to choose their own activities, girls spent longer on any one project than boys, and more often chose activities such as painting and stringing beads. Boys, on the other hand, opted for constructing three-dimensional objects, were far more deft at such constructions than girls, and were generally much more noisy and disruptive than the girls while at play. McGinnis explains the variations by findings of the last decade concerning the specialized functions of the left and right hemispheres of the brain and the differing speeds at which they mature in boys and girls. Boys develop their spatial skills first, and they learn best by watching, manipulating, and doing. Girls develop their verbal skills and fine motor skills first, making them better able to cope with learning to write and to draw and to listen. It is small wonder, says McGinnis, that boys are so often noisy and difficult in class when classroom activities concentrate on teaching children the kind of skills that only girls are equipped to handle at that age, and in the kind of way, sitting quietly in rows, that is inappropriate to boys' needs. Boys are forced to learn in an atmosphere that is unproductive for them, the kinds of skills which they are not yet ready to learn. If they were left to develop their spatial skills first, they would learn verbal and fine motor skills in due course, when ready, without problem. But instead, because they don't respond to the classroom curriculum, they are likely to be labeled dyslexic early on. And if they are put in remedial classes to help them cope, thus confirming the diagnosis, they are well on the way to becoming dyslexic for real. In effect, McGinnis is saying that the assumption that boys and girls learn in the same way and develop in the same way intellectually is a prime cause of dyslexia. Until the introduction of more modern free choice activity in primary schools, the whole of early education was based on this erroneous and all too far-reaching assumption. Assumptions based on appearance. In 1980, English psychologist Ray Bull published a study that had been designed to test the public's expectations about the appearance of lawbreakers. A group of 58 men and women, which included 10 policemen, were asked to evaluate 10 male faces as likely criminals from photographs they were shown. The subjects had to say whether they thought the men shown were likely to have committed a mugging, rape, robbery with violence, taking and driving away a car, illegal possession of drugs, gross indecency, or something other. In fact, none of the men were criminals of any kind. They had merely volunteered for the experiment. But one face was picked out 37 times as that of a likely mugger, and 2 other faces were chosen 19 times as belonging to someone likely to have committed fraud or to have taken and driven away a car. One man was pinpointed 15 times as someone likely to have committed gross indecency, but no face was seen as specifically that of an arsonist, rapist, or burglar. Overall, the policeman's choices were similar to those of the public. Ray Bull suggested that unconscious assumptions about the kind of person who would commit a crime might influence both police and witnesses. Police might less often suspect, catch, or convict lawbreakers who didn't fit the required image, and witnesses to a crime who didn't get a clear view might be influenced by the power of the criminal stereotypes when asked to an identification parade. And that's from the Observer, May 4th, 1980. Some studies have shown a link between criminality and appearance. Ray Bull suggests that if that is so, it may be related to the way that person of unusual or unattractive appearance were treated as children. Unattractive children have been found to be punished more severely for misbehavior than children who look appealing, which might lead the child to think, I might as well do something to deserve such a heavy punishment. Similarly, jury studies have found that attractive defendants are more likely to get off than those of less sympathetic appearance. Examples such as these show how much of our behavior is based on assumptions which are not based on fact. Some have adverse effects on the lives of other people, some serve only to deceive ourselves. To assume is to take for granted. Rather than give up a firmly held assumption, there is often a tendency to opt for expectations. So Jews are very tight with money, but Mr. Goldstein round the corner is different. The saying that there is an exception to every rule allows one to continue applying the rule without questioning the exceptions and what their significance might be. Assumptions are not facts. They are inferences that we act on. In scientific terms, a hypothesis is an assumption that something might be true, but it remains a hypothesis until it is proven. It is merely a basis for reasoning, a position to start from. In ordinary life, however, assumptions are considered proven on very unreliable data. 20 years of marriage to a selfish man and a couple of conversations with neighboring wives may be sufficient to convince a particular woman that all men are congenitally inconsiderate and untrustworthy. Her assumption may be the basis for indoctrinating her own daughter with the same belief. If beliefs and assumptions are not called into question or tested, we are unprotected against the upheaval that accompanies their disintegration if they do become subjected to attack. Nature is not alone in abhorring a vacuum. It is therefore perhaps unsurprising if sometimes a whole new belief system or a new set of baseless assumptions is gratefully adopted in the place of the old. And that ends chapter 3. And we will pick up the next video with chapter 4 on conditioning. We are in The Manipulated Mind by Denise Wynn. Don't go away.